Hey friends, how are you guys doing today? I hope you're doing so well, and welcome back to another Bolo video. Last week I covered 50 different brands that you should pick up to resell, things that sell really well, usually around $100. So if you missed that video, it's a really good one. You want to make sure you see those brands and the tags that should sell for good money. But today I'm going to be covering 50 brands that you should avoid picking up to resell, 50 brands that are not worth reselling in my opinion, and things that you should leave behind at the thrift store, and things that you might see often and think they're worth money, but then once you pick them up and have them at home, you realize they're just going to sit there and collect dust. So we're going to cover 50 different brands today, and of course I'm going to throw up the brand tags on the screen for you too, so that way you can recognize those tags when you're out thrifting and leave those suckers behind. Now, some of these brands are going to have some exceptions. Maybe there's something from this brand that will resell for good money, but I'm looking at, on the whole, are the brands worth reselling for every piece on their docket? And for me, these brands are not worth reselling. So my kind of bar was set on if it could sell for $25 or more, then it's worth it. Less than that is going to be a no for me, and maybe that's a little different for you, but that's just kind of where I drew the line for these brands. I found that most of these are going to have that limit of they're not going to resell for at least 25. So now let's jump into these brands and the tags as we go through. So if you guys are liking this content, if you guys like the Bolo videos, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. Now, number one, the first brand that you should not pick up to resell is Shein. Now, this might be a no-brainer for some people, but Shein is becoming more and more, all invasive at the thrift store. There's so many pieces from Shein just everywhere, and it's because it's so cheap that it's so prevalent and you can find it so often, and the styles are very trendy, but they're made so fast and pretty unethically. They have them not paying fair wages to their workers and making them work crazy hours and not giving them fair treatment. So there's a lot of ethical problems with Shein, and we could talk about that. So if I could please help you avoid shopping firsthand from Shein, don't even buy it firsthand. But it's also not worth reselling on the whole because it is such a cheap piece of clothing usually, and oftentimes there's not even a Shein label in these pieces. Sometimes they just have a size because labels add money and they like to not spend very much money to make Shein things. So Shein is one I would always pretty much avoid unless it's like an amazing piece. Maybe it's more expensive. I would just say on the whole it's a no. Number two is Time and True. Time and True is a Walmart brand, but it can be a little deceptive at times. Sometimes they make some cute things and you're gonna think, oh, that's actually nice. Maybe I should pick that up to resell. No, it's usually not gonna be worth it. Most pieces of clothing at Walmart do not retail for very much, and again, that's why the resale is not going to be worth it. So Time and True, that's what the tag looks like. I would avoid it personally, and I'm just giving you guys the advice I would like to have received, and I definitely just want to help you guys out too and help you guys avoid some of the mistakes I've made. So that was number two. Number three is LuLaRoe. Now, people have made a lot of money reselling LuLaRoe, but recently, and the time that we're in post LuLaRich documentary, I don't think that it's moving like it once did. The brand itself is kind of problematic for me, but also a lot of the pieces are not reselling for very much money and are sitting. I do think that there's money to be made maybe in lotting up pieces, but at that point, I do feel like the cost of goods kind of outweighs the benefit of selling it. So for me, LuLaRoe is another no. Next, number four is Simply Vera by Vera Wang. Now, Vera Wang is a designer, so it can be a little bit tricky sometimes here with designers and their diffusion labels. A designer can have a really nice brand like Vera Wang and White by Vera Wang for bridal and Vera Wang dress. Those are all really good brands to resell. But Simply Vera by Vera Wang is her diffusion label, the one that's more, cost effective, more accessible for the masses, and it's usually sold at places like Kohl's. So this kind of a label is not going to resell for very much. And maybe it's not even that cheap. It usually sells for 40 to 50 bucks retail probably. But the resale's not there because, again, it's a diffusion label and it's usually not as expensive. or is very like not as well made as some of her other pieces. So in my opinion, that one is also one that you should pass on. Number 5 is Jessica Simpson, another name that people are familiar with, so they think they might be able to pick it up and resell. But this is again one of those things that's sold at Kohl's, and you will find on this list many Kohl's brands because people think since things retail for pretty good money at Kohl's that they should resell, and that is not the case. If something is at Kohl's, usually Kohl's is running a sale almost every day on everything that they own and that they're selling, so they're not expecting to make full price sales on a lot of their clothing. So by the time it gets down to a resale level, even if it's a new tags piece, it was never usually going to sell for as much as it was priced at. So you've got to like keep some of these things in mind. And also Jessica Simpson, that label I think is maybe even, is that a junior's label even? It just will not move for a ton of money. Same thing with Kendall and Kylie. I think that was also maybe sold at Kohl's, but that is a brand I've seen kind of popping up more and more in the resale market, but it's not moving for much. Along with some more Kohl's brands, we have Sonoma, which can be expensive. Again, Kohl's brand, not going to sell for a lot. Gloria Vanderbilt, I find these pants all the time from Gloria, and they usually are plus size. So I like to pick up plus size pieces to resell. It usually has a really, good sell-through rate. Gloria Vanderbilt, I do not find to resell for more than like $12, which for me is not worth it, but maybe it would be for you. Often Borrow, another Kohl's brand that's not gonna do well. Nine West is a brand that is sold at places like Kohl's, but also can be sold at like TJ Maxx and Marshalls, things like that. I think they might even have their own website, but Nine West is not doing its best in the resale market. They make shoes, they make bags, and some bags may sell for good money, but on the whole, I would say to avoid Nine West. Number 11 is Tech Gear, and I swear I find this brand all the time while reselling. A lot of it is more like activewear, athleisure, running things, so a lot of leggings and a lot of pants and tops, but there is barely any value in them. And that's not to say for a lot of these brands that you can't find personal value in them. Like maybe you love Sonoma and that is your jam, and I am so happy for you that that is. I'm talking about only resale. The resale for Tech Gear is not good. It's not high. So that's one of those things I would leave. And that leads kind of into number 12, which is Target. I love Target. I love a Target moment. Some of their clothes are so cute. Some of their shoes are really cute. And some pieces from Target can resell for good money, but most of it is not going to resell for more than 20 bucks. So I would say Target, a lot of these brands underneath Target. So a New Day is one, Knox Rose, they have Ava and Viv, they have Wild Fable. A lot of those brands can be really cute items, but again, since they are more like fast fashion, they're sold from Target, they aren't going to hold up super highly in the resale market. So some of the stuff you might be able to get like 20 bucks for, or if it's new with tags, that might be a different story. But on the whole, the pieces don't resell for a ton because a lot of those also are clearanced out quite frequently. So then you also have to be aware that there's usually tons of things saturated in the market where people are all trying to offload these pallets of return clothes or just things that have been liquidated from a Target. So that's one to be on the lookout for. There are some things from Target, like there's a ton of collaborations or designer collabs with Target. Some of those are actually worth really good money. I've sold a dress from Christopher John Rogers with Target for 50 bucks before. So not everything from Target is bad, but on the whole, I would say it's not usually worth it. Number 13 is Old Navy. Some things from Old Navy, again, can do well, but on the whole, no, they do not. I would say that there are very few exceptions to the rule. Old Navy is a more budget-friendly shopping place, in my opinion, and so a lot of things are just not going to move for over 25. And we have something that has been cropping up so much, and that is Amazon Essentials. I swear, I have found so many Amazon Essentials sweatshirts and long sleeves recently. They also have shoes. When I feel those pieces, I can just tell that they feel so cheap. And also, if they're an Amazon Essential, they're not very expensive to start off with. So I would highly recommend not buying them first off in the first place from the actual Amazon, and then to not pick them up to resell either. Now, number 15 and 16 might be a little controversial, so let me know if you've had different experiences with these brands. But my number 15 is Ann Taylor, and my number 16 is Loft. And those two kind of go hand in hand. They kind of coexist here. There are pieces that are Ann Taylor, there are pieces that are Loft, and then there are pieces that are Ann Taylor Loft together. So the brands, the tags, they have quite a few. There's also Ann Taylor Outlet, there's Loft Outlet, and the outlet pieces for sure skip. But almost all of the pieces from Ann Taylor and Loft together are not going to sell for very much individually. Sometimes I can lot those pieces up and resell them for an okay amount, but on the whole, I cannot tell you the amount of Ann Taylor and Loft pieces I find out in the thrift store, out in the bins. They're producing at such a rate that there's just so much out there, and there's not that kind of urgent need for it. I don't find a lot of people buying it very quickly right now. And that's not to say it's not beautiful and nice pieces and they're not expensive. They are. It's just that there's so much. There's so much out there. And today I was thrifting and I was tempted to buy this new tags Ann Taylor dress that was marked at $90 that I could buy for $8, but at that price point, it wasn't worth picking up because it probably would have only sold for $12. So you got to look up your comps, and it pains me that this is one of those brands that is not doing well, but at least in my opinion, it's not been moving. Now, number 17 is a 90 Degree by Reflex. When you feel some of these different activewear brands, a lot of them feel so similar that you have to go by brands. This is one of those brands that's sold at TJ Maxx and Marshalls, and so it's not going to do super well on the resale market, but it's a brand to know because I find it all the time. Now we've got, I think this might be one of the last Kohl's brands, just another one that I find all the time and is sold at Kohl's and just doesn't do well on the resale market. Now we're getting into a little bit more of the fast fashion ones. We've got quite a few here in a row that are very popular brands and people love them, but their resale value just usually is not there. So number 19, we have Fashion Nova. I have sold some Fashion Nova pieces for good money, usually new with tags, and usually pick them up in the bin, so my cost of goods is very low. Fashion Nova just, again, is in the kind of same boat as Shein, where it's very quickly made, not great conditions, and cheap clothing that you can buy for not very much money, so then the resale isn't going to be as high, although there are exceptions. Number 20, Misguided, same story as Fashion Nova. Number 21 is Romwe, same thing. Number 22, Boohoo. I have sold Boohoo pieces, but again, you need a more substantial piece in order to make that work. And then number 23, ASOS. I love ASOS. I used to shop at ASOS, but it just came with time where I learned that there just isn't a ton of resale value there. A lot of the pieces aren't reselling for a lot because a lot of them are not retailing for a lot, but there are obviously exceptions and some pieces will do really well. So it's one of those things you need to look it up, but on the whole, if you find even like an ASOS t-shirt, things like that are usually never worth it. Number 24, I have beef with Karen Scott. I cannot understand where she has multiplied all of her designs and where they're coming from because, man, they are everywhere. And I do have to admit, I did pick up a piece of Karen Scott today when I was out thrifting. But on the whole, man, Karen Scott pieces will not resell for good money. Where are they even coming from? Are they from Kohl's? I bet they're from Kohl's. If something is like doing a lot of multiplication like that, it's probably from Kohl's. Number 25 is Cotton On. Again, it is not cheap. It's not like it's the cheapest thing in the world, but a lot of the pieces just do not resell for good money. Even like the jeans, they maybe will get you like $10, $12, and a top from them, you might as well just give it away. Like, at least in my opinion, my experience, it's very difficult to move Cotton On. Number 26, Express. Some pieces, maybe new with tags, maybe a more substantial like piece like a dress or a jacket, will be better off, but a lot of Express pieces date themselves very quickly and just do not retain their value. So that's why she made the list, even though Express does make really cute things and I really like their shoes, but they just don't keep that value in my opinion. Number 27, Nasty Gal. She kind of goes up with the Shein and the Boohoo and the Misguided on all of those like those baddie brands. It's not going to usually resell for a lot of money. Number 28, H&M. Now, some H&M collabs can do good, and some H&M pieces by themselves can do well, especially if they're new with tags. That's always going to help with the exceptions to the rule. But on the whole, H&M just is another one of those brands that's fast fashion, and then it's also just pretty inexpensive. It's pretty affordable, and so it's not usually worth reselling. Then we have Maurice's. And I know some people are very avid Maurice's fans and will shop Maurice's no matter what. But I do not find that the pieces move quickly. A lot of them, again, date themselves very quickly. And then I do not think that they usually resell for very good money, unfortunately. Something that goes with Maurice's is number 30, Rue 21. This is another mall brand. So Maurice's is very much a mall brand, so is Rue 21. And Rue 21, they are very affordable. They run so many sales, and I find this tag all the time, and it is hardly ever, I don't think I've ever found anything worth picking up from Rue 21. 31, O'Neill. I think this is like a surfing brand maybe. Again, I never pick it up because it does not sell for a ton. 32, Uniqlo. Some pieces, again, like a jacket, a coat could do well, but almost everything else doesn't. A lot of their pieces are cute, but a lot of them also just don't retail for a ton, and so they don't resell for a lot. Then we have the ubiquitous number 33, Forever 21. Forever 21, I have sold pieces from them. I have. And you can. It's just almost all of their pieces are cheap. Unless you're in the bins where your cost of goods is low, it's going to be really hard to find something that's worth reselling from Forever 21. 34, Gap. Gap has some cute stuff. And Gap, I find a lot of new tags things. The problem with it is that, again, it just doesn't resell for more than $25. Like, I think a lot of Gap stuff will resell around $15. So if $15 is an okay number for you, then have at it. Gap could be good for you. But for me, it's a no. 35, Aeropostale. Again, another mall brand. And again, not cheap, but the resale value just isn't there. And then 34, Nautica. I think this has got to be a Kohl's brand, right? It almost feels like it has to be. I find a lot of menswear from Nautica, and man, it's not it. And neither is 37, St. John's Bay. St. John's Bay, you will find so many button-ups, you'll find so many plaid pieces from this brand in the thrift store, and it's very frustrating because St. John is a really good brand to resell, but St. John's Bay is not. So you got to be careful sometimes, especially if you're a newbie or if you're new at reselling. It can be kind of confusing what things are worth it and what things aren't. So hopefully this will help you along your journey. St. John's Bay? No. St. John? Yes. Number 38 is Windsor. Windsor makes a lot of teen kind of like prom and homecoming dresses. They specialize in formal dresses for teens, for events. But Windsor, even though they charge a lot for their dresses, usually they don't resell very well because even though they could be expensive to start out with, the construction is not always the best. And a lot of times if it's not new with tags, it just won't move for very much at all. 39 is Charlotte Russe. And Charlotte Russe is another mall brand, very similar to Rue 21, but a lot of people can be taken in by this tag because it doesn't look necessarily like it's terrible. But Charlotte Russe can also be confused with Charming Charlie. The tag on that is also like this kind of C looking thing. It's not on my list, but it's also not worth reselling. So I'll put it up there as a freebie for you. You can have 2 for 1 with the C's. But Charlotte Russe, again, nope, just pass on it if you can. Number 40 is ANA, or you could call it Anna, but it stands for A New Approach. And I'm pretty sure this is a Kohl's brand too. Definitely don't pick it up. I have not seen a single piece from this brand resell for more than $10. So I would leave it behind. Then we have number 42, which is DSG. Now, DSG took me the longest time to figure out what this meant at the beginning of reselling. DSG stands for Dick's Sporting Goods. So this is their in-house, like, activewear brand from Dick's itself. And Dick's Sporting Goods, they sell really nice things there. But an in-house brand usually is not going to resell for as much as an actual, like, name brand. So in this case, DSG normally doesn't resell for very much, sometimes like $10-15, which could be worth it for you. But for me, I usually pass on that. And then we have C9 by Champion. I actually personally enjoy selling Champion pieces. I find that they photograph easily, they move quickly. I don't mind getting a little bit less than normal for a piece like that. But what we're talking about here is C9 by Champion, which I find to be an even cheaper version of Champion, and it just usually doesn't sell for very much. It has a different brand logo actually on the front usually too. And if people are going to buy Champion, they usually actually are looking for that Champion logo. And so I find that the C9 things go for less than the Champion pieces themselves. So that's a brand that I would want to know. And then we have the brand Original Use, and this brand can sometimes look like Urban Outfitters. It can be confusing because Original Use is OU instead of UO, and so some people think that it might be Urban Outfitters. It's not. It's actually sold at Target too. I think it's a menswear brand actually. This is what the tag looks like. I would leave that behind as well. I don't find that it resells very much because it also is very affordable from Target. 45 is another diffusion label. It's Michael by Michael Kors. Now, of course, there are exceptions, but on the whole, finding something by Michael Kors is going to be better than finding something from Michael by Michael Kors because that's a diffusion label. So if nothing else, hopefully that diffusion label knowledge will help you out with some other brands as well, because there's quite a few of them that are diffusion labels by brands that are actually good. So that's something to keep in mind. And then we have this brand called Daily Ritual, and I am guilty of picking this up before. It is sold on Amazon. So the problem with Daily Ritual is that it looks a little bit like the tag from Daily Practice. Daily Practice is sold at Anthropologie. Daily Ritual is a very cheap, inexpensive brand that's sold on Amazon. And I've accidentally picked it up before too. Daily Ritual, not worth reselling. I have one piece listed. I have it listed at $10, and I get constant questions about it and wanting measurements on this really cheap dress. So do not recommend reselling that one personally. And then we have a few fun ones that are from Nordstrom, and Nordstrom makes some really nice things. They sell some really expensive brands, but you know what is not expensive from them is their in-house brands. So knowing the Nordstrom in-house brands are really valuable because those things are not worth reselling. So Nordstrom, the brand itself, sometimes can be, and that's not on my list. But number 47, BP is BP with a little period. That makes some really cute, trendy styles. But the thing is that they are cheaply made and they do not resell for much because their retail is usually something around $15 at the most. So the resale is definitely not there for those. Treasure and Bond, same story. Another Nordstrom in-house brand, as well as Caslon, which can have really expensive pieces. But again, it's an in-house brand, so it's usually not going to be worth reselling. And number 50, Open Edit, same thing. It's another in-house brand by Nordstrom. Isn't that crazy? So knowing some of those things hopefully will help you out while you're out on the hunt in the thrift. Hopefully seeing some of those tags will make you think back to this video and say, oh yeah, maybe that's not worth even looking up. It'll save you some time, some effort, some frustration. Hopefully you won't make the same mistakes I've had in picking up some of these brands. And there are exceptions. I am saying that one more time because I know that some people will love selling something like Ann Taylor or Loft, but that's okay. Everybody enjoys reselling different things. So this was my experience, my opinions only, and that's okay if you disagree. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want some more bullet brand videos, what to look for, what not to, then let me know in the comments. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button if you want more thrifting content. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And until the next video, bye.